We're going to move now into the session today on climate action trailblazers. In June of 2020, the city of San Luis Obispo took the progressive step of committing to achieve carbon neutrality by 2035, along with 4,000 other US cities, states, tribal nations, businesses, universities, healthcare organizations, faith groups, and cultural institutions. It also committed to meeting the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. In addition to building an interdepartmental green team with city staff, the city of San Luis Obispo has prioritized outreach to the community, seeking active participation and collaboration from its residents. San Luis Obispo was awarded the 2020 Climate Protection Award for its community-driven climate action accomplishments. If Chris Reed is here and available to go into the presentation he was going to give. There you are, Chris. Thanks so much. Chris Reed is the Sustainability Manager of the City of San Luis Obispo. Chris, thanks very much for being here, and take it away.
All right, well, good morning. It is so incredible to be here with looks like almost or over 100 folks that are interested in climate action on our Central Coast. It's a huge honor. I'm Chris Reed. I'm the Sustainability Manager at the City of San Luis Obispo. I work in our Office of Sustainability, and I work across our department with our green team, has been alluded to earlier, and across our community with numerous community-based organizations. I'm here to talk this morning about our climate action plan for community recovery. Here's the slide from our adoption hearing, which was a really exciting day, a nice culmination of a lot of hard work for our staff and our community. But just before I get started, I just want to touch on the trailblazer misnomer. I think it's a really nice way to talk about the work and what our community has advocated for and achieved. But I also just want to note that almost every single person that's speaking today, and so many people I see on the participant list, whether they're courageous elected officials or courageous community members or all the talented staff in our region, I think are all trailblazers in their own way. So I just wanted to acknowledge that before I move on. But SLO is a special place, and we're really proud of our work, so we're happy to share. Just for reference, I've provided a very long PowerPoint just so folks can have information. In the chat, I'm going to put my email address and a link to our work. Please feel free, if there's details in here you want to dig into, reach out. We always love to give the longer version of this presentation. I'm going to really focus on 4 things, though, for this morning. I'm going to talk a bit about the guiding principles, so the things that we decided upon with our community as we were developing our plan, just to give a sense of what our sort of foundational values are in this work. Talk a bit about the goal we set and the plan that we created and how we told our story. Do a little sidebar on what this means for development under CEQA, just because it seems like that was a learning outcome desired from this presentation and this meeting today. And then close on just like how on earth we're going to get this stuff done. It's a big, exciting challenge and just loads of opportunity in front of us. So as we were developing our climate action plan, and when council told us, gave us direction, heard the community, and they wanted to pursue one of the most progressive local government greenhouse gas emissions reductions targets in the nation, if not the world, of carbon neutral by 2035. There's a million good ideas out there. And so we really wanted to spend time grounding ourselves in guiding principle based on everything from academic literature to real deep interaction with our community, with staff, colleagues, et cetera. This is what we came up with. So first is that systems are responsible for climate change. I think many folks that find themselves here today won't be surprised that this is a focus of ours, but this is a bit of a paradigm shift from not blaming an individual for using a high carbon mode of transportation or for not recycling properly, but really looking at the systems that those individuals operate in and making sure that those are low carbon, that those are equitable and accessible. So really taking it up and focusing on those things we can have the most impact on. This also hopefully is not a new topic or idea for folks on this call, but it is for some, that really the climate crisis and social equity must be addressed together. That environmental racism and inequality, that environmental justice and climate action are really, really highly aligned, if not inseparable. So we're really bringing that lens into our work. The next is that organizations are uniquely capable of certain actions. So the city is very good at running certain programs, regulating land use. We have things that we do well, but our community-based organizations have things that they do really well. So really identifying what we can do effectively and where we can make space and convene and connect others to do their work effectively. The fourth one here is that leadership's needed. This also, I don't think, will be a surprise for folks on this call or this meeting, but the time to act is yesterday. And so the second best time to act is right now. And we need to move as rapidly as we can. And then finally, that climate action really is the path forward for an enduring both community and economic recovery from COVID, but also it's just the way forward from an equitable and enduring economic development approach. So these were really the sort of grounding truths we held when we were doing our work, and when we had decisions to make, we would always hold those against these. Next slide, please. Just gonna skip through a couple of these really great pictures of community workshops that we held in collaboration with the Slow Climate Coalition. We did a ton of social media work and keep going through some workshops, of course, and a big storytelling exercise we're going to talk about in a second. All right, one more slide, please. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about what our climate action plan is. So, again, we have this carbon neutral by 2035 goal, which is one of the most ambitious in the country. And we also want, we're thinking a bit about how the story of climate action is often told. And oftentimes, you might hear it in popular media, and this is certainly changing, but several years ago, that we can have climate action or we can have a healthy economy, but we can't have both. We can have climate action, or we can have equity, or we can have affordability, but we can't have both. And for us, that was just fundamentally mistaken. That, again, based on our principles, right, our grounding principles, that like climate action is the way we move towards a more equitable, just, and thriving community. So for us, it was really important that we told that positive vision for the future. And so our plan actually is a collection of stories from the year 2035. If you can go to the next slide, please. So we collected stories from almost 100 community members and then mashed them into 5 sort of overarching themes and stories from the year 2035. Here's an example. These are actual young entrepreneurs in our community that are making EV charging infrastructure more accessible to more people. And we tell the story about a day in their life in the future. And you see each of the sort of yellow highlighted items on the left connect you to an action on the right. And so across these stories, we actually catalog all the actions in our climate action plan to achieve what we think is a realistic and a really positive and exciting vision for our community in the future. We can skip through the next 2, but I've included a couple other examples of stories we have, and I put a link in the chat there. I'd really encourage you to check this out. That middle one there, for folks that may not know, that's actually my mom. She was a very excellent photo model for us. So that was great. And then keep going. And then this final one really focuses on commute. So we really tried to have all the different people that move through our community, have that be a representative cross section, and then really show what their lives will be like once we're able to achieve a low carbon future. All right. We can skip through the next couple pretty quickly. I think that most of the rest of today, people will be talking about different technical approaches, how we have a carbon-free power supply, how we electrify and decarbonize and move off fossil fuels, how we create a circular economy, how we really understand the sequestration and environmental benefits of providing climate solutions to our working spaces, working lands and open spaces. So I'm going to leave that for later, so we can skip through a couple of these. But I did want to talk a little bit about maybe 2 more slides forward until we get to the one more. And one more. Thanks. And so one more, please. Sorry about that. And so this next slide is really important for how we're thinking about development. Obviously, people will continue to build things in our community. It's important for our economy. It's important for achieving our housing goals and other things. So for us, it was really important to tie our plan to how we review projects. And so we developed what's called a qualified climate action plan. And development that comes in for review and needs a CEQA process or a California Environmental Quality Act process that's consistent with our climate plan, well, they get to essentially tier off of our climate plan, and they don't have to do additional environmental review. And so this makes sure that new projects are really closely aligned with our climate work. If you can go to the next slide. We actually have a really easy to comply with checklist that comes in development projects. And so this is great from both perspective of keeping very almost almost carbon neutral, very low emissions in new projects, almost carbon neutral new projects, having those occur, but also providing real certainty to both developers and staff when they come into the counter. We know what's expected, they know what's expected, and it's just a better process for everyone. We're going to close, maybe go to my last slide, if you will, on just how the heck we're going to do all this. So just a couple of points here, and then we can move on to our next speaker. I think these are really big takeaways for us, and you might not necessarily see this just by looking at the plan, but first, our climate action plan is tied directly to our budget processes. So we do 2-year budgets, and we have committed to updating our plan every other budget. And so instead of saying, this action's near term, this action's medium term, we say this action is going to occur in the next 2 budget cycles. So we really think budgets are the truest reflections of our sort of values, and so tying it in that way, I think, is really important. We're integrating this work throughout our agency, and these next 2 are really important. That we occupy, or we are located in a region really rich with talented staff, really focused elected leaders. There's senior management and leadership department heads throughout our region that are focused on this work, and of course a rich network of community-based organizations that care about this work. So for us, it's all about building that collaborative network. It's all about maintaining and supporting that collaborative network, and then working together to really deliver these deep reductions. And so I'm so excited to have this group gathered today and to learn how we can continue doing that, and then moving out of this from this really nice convening into direct action and collaborating with you all. Finally, we don't have all the answers, not even close, and so we can't wait to hear what others have to say today, and we're open to ideas at any time. So again, my email is in the chat box, as is a link to our plan. I would love to hear from you if you have any more detailed questions on all that information we just went through. So thank you so much, and I hope you all have a lovely day.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's nice to see you again, by the way. Looking forward to seeing you again in person, hopefully soon. Okay, we're gonna give the video one more shot. So let's give it a go.
As an elected official, my main responsibility is the health and safety of my community. My job is to know and value my neighbors, listen to science, and do everything in my power to move my city and our society forward with respect and care for all people, including our future generations. In November of 2015, more than 750,000 people in cities across the globe joined the Global Climate March. Now, in 2021, we face what might seem to be some very hard questions. Can we protect the health and safety of our communities at present and in the decades to come? Can we move forward with economic recovery in a way that prioritizes environmental responsibility? Is now really the time to think about the planet when so many of our friends and neighbors need help? The answer to all of these questions is yes. Why now? Standing in this moment of recognition and facing the injustices perpetrated on women, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and the very earth that we rely upon for life and sustenance, we are called to rectify them. And amid all of the setbacks, the jobs lost, the lives lost, we have the power to showcase our resilience. We are living in a moment of real and expanded possibility, and it is our honor and privilege as leaders across the Central Coast to recognize and amplify this moment. We have a golden opportunity before us to affect change. From the Central Coast towns of Ventura County to the wine country of San Luis Obispo, to the redwoods of Santa Cruz. Climate champions are facing down and mitigating the impacts of the climate emergency. When we acknowledge the simple fact that we are all connected, that climate action is social justice and economic stimulus, the path to co-creating a vibrant Central Coast is not only possible, it's inevitable. But only if we continue to act boldly, only if we continue to lay the unbreakable foundation upon which our zero carbon future will be built. As we seek to take meaningful climate action, it's imperative that we carefully consider and give precedent to those who bear the greatest burden of climate change: women, Black, Indigenous people of color, and all of those who struggle to put food on the table for their families. Let me say clearly, climate action must be built on a new foundation of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that is real social justice, and to do anything less is not and never has been acceptable. And while diversity and equity will strengthen the foundation of a new and stronger and more resilient system, prosperity will continue to reinforce our vibrant communities of tomorrow. The promise of economic stimulus must rest upon our opportunity for bold climate action. We can and we must create tens of thousands of living wage clean jobs in today's industry to empower the economy of tomorrow. Cities and counties that recognize the opportunities we now have will be best positioned to capture the expected influx of funding available for infrastructure, affordable housing, and renewable energy. And your presence and participation here today connects you to a collaborative support network with people who have laid the groundwork for you and the nearly 2.3 million residents across our 6 counties. Building upon that groundwork will lend credibility to your projects and ultimately economic strength for your community. Sustainable prosperity will depend on raising a new generation of talented and creative community members. If many in your community live on the edge of survival, I invite you to imagine them thriving. I invite you to see your neighbors not engaged in perpetual struggle, but instead working in healthy, good-paying jobs that provide for their families and for the world around them. Setting an equal playing field for our children will be critical for lifting families out of generational poverty. When more women and people of color have the means to start and grow businesses, everyone prospers. And when prosperity is built on an equitable foundation, the vibrance of community runs deep and rich. So, are you ready to stand for extraordinary possibility? You're here today to be part of a coordinated effort. It's up to you to both listen and contribute. You'll become a messenger and a change maker. The greatest successes in cities and counties are usually community-driven, and your participation today matters because you'll have the tools to build essential bridges with your community's most impassioned residents and most engaged leaders. When people know their voices are heard, trust grows, and it's time to put an end to the adversarial dynamics in our local governments. It's time to develop the relationships between City Hall and community groups, which, based on shared goals, can mobilize supportive voices and facilitate project completion. If we work together in a new way, we can exponentially increase our impact. We will create vibrant communities that foster a circle of connection, a sense of belonging, and committed character in every stakeholder. In neighborhoods where resources, knowledge, skills, and wisdom are shared, we see sharp increases in community resilience and pride. Nurturing micro-community collaboration leads to extraordinary results. when we communicate and work across traditional boundary lines, we can achieve even the most ambitious social and environmental goals. By understanding and working to maximize the connections, our collective impact is mighty. So, I thank you sincerely for attending the Central Coast Climate Action Summit, and I'm confident that you'll come away from today's forum with the tools that you need to help you adopt a climate action plan that lays a sustainable foundation benefiting your community, the Central Coast, and the planet that we all share.
Great. Thank you to Lauren Bell and Stefan Geraldo, who were able to go record that video message from Mayor Harmon. And now I would like to welcome Teresa McClish, Special Programs Manager for the City of San Luis Obispo. Welcome, Teresa.
Great, welcome to everybody here. It's very, very, very pleased to be here. And thank you to Chris and Mayor Harmon for kicking us off so well. I'm here to talk to you about building upon some of the successes we've had through our climate action planning process. And lest you think a plan is made and it stops there, of course, it certainly does not. There's so much going on in the climate action realm, but also in the resiliency and adaptation realm. So I'm not seeing my slides, so if you can go to the next slide, there we go. We have kicked off, and next slide, great. We have kicked off our Resilient Slow project for the city. And this has been made possible in a large part due to a $435,000 grant from Caltrans through their SB1 adaptation planning grant. And as the city is an economic hub with lots of connector to adjacent communities, this allows for a comprehensive look and preparation for what we're going to be experiencing, even given our efforts due to climate change impacts. And the idea is to insert and promote resilience into a more innovative and effective safety element of our general plan. So we started traipsing down a path and planning for adaptation, planning for resilience proactively, and of course, just as COVID-19 set upon us. So as you all have done, we plowed straight ahead and we are planning for and living adaptation and participating in another chapter of our community's resilience story. A key part of this effort is the team building, the team assembly. And this is, you'll learn more through the next few slides, but it really started with the project team, and that's our interdisciplinary staff members in our city. It's a partnership with the local government commission, and they are a partner on the grant. And not to be underestimated, we also have participation through their Civic Spark program of a Civic Spark Fellow. And this is a wonderful way to do climate work or adaptation work. We have our competitively procured consultant team. And we have a representation from Cal Poly through Adrian Grieve. So more on that coming up. But next slide, please. So the project really is making sure we are practical and prudent and in addressing climate change impacts. We are staring down, of course, risks from wildfire, smoke, changing precipitation patterns, average temperature increases, flash floods. So in addressing these things, we need to obviously make sure that we build on our climate action work, we continue with that community input. We do the hard work, the technical work of hazard and vulnerability assessment. We develop our adaptation strategies. We provide this education. We ensure that we have an implementation guide going forward. And this is in conjunction with capacity building that's built right into the scope of work for the project. And this will include community collaboration as well as internal capacity building and collaboration within the organization. And this will allow us to look at what we need to do to prepare the community through our CIP projects and so forth. And ultimately, of course, it will allow us to have a community resilience and public safety plan update as part of our general plan. Next slide, please. So the engagement, you saw what Chris talked about in our climate action planning. Really wonderful to be able to just continue to build on that. And one aspect, and this is only one aspect that we're able to do so, really going out there, making sure we're doing our community surveys. Of course, we would love to do it where in platforms where it's not all virtual, but we'll get there one day. So maybe we were helped or hindered, we're not sure, with the COVID-19 environment. People are in front of their screens. We have good feedback and community priority surveys, but we really are trying to make sure they're printed out and getting to all sectors of the community. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. One instrument of community engagement we're really happy with so far is our Resilience Roundtable. And the city put out invitations to community members to participate. Folks submitted a brief application and information, and we selected from a great big group 15 folks from different agencies or community sectors, folks with different expertise, different perspectives, and we are working with them through this project. And folks that weren't able to get on the roundtable are invited to work through working groups. We have 3 working groups that kind of feed information to the roundtable. That's natural systems, the built environment, community resilience, our social systems. So that has been a great way, even given this environment, to devise stakeholder engagement for the project. We're really, really pleased with that. And then community stories of resilience. This is, of course, inspired in part through the stories, the future stories that were talked about by Chris in our climate action plan. And these stories we're going after are how are people in different capacities adapting after shocks or changes. And we have a variety of stories coming in. We're going to keep building it throughout the project. Also inspired really through the Central Coast Environmental Council down in Santa Barbara. They did this as well. Wonderful, wonderful work there. And this just allows us to explore and really think about what resilience is. How do people do this? And it's been great so far. I cannot emphasize enough the power of the community-based organizations, because it's really through relationship building with them through our climate action process that we're able to continue with that and hopefully build new relationships with other community-based organizations. But really in this exercise, story collection is the Slow Climate Coalition in this instance. And that's just a huge lift. It's a different way to communicate with different folks out there, and very much appreciated and important and very important to the project. And we also have community events. We had a community event where we had a beloved local meteorologist speak. We had some technical work speakers from our consultant team. We had Adrian Grieve give an exercise again of what resilience means and coming out better than before. And also Bea Makaku from Cal Poly, who really gave a very powerful perspective of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that is how one way we're trying to make sure that lens is prominent and pervasive through this whole project. So next slide. And yeah, that's really it. And I really want to emphasize that it's just a continuing, evolving, wonderful, challenging environment we're in to tackle climate action, as well as adaptation and resilience. I'd love to leave you with a quote. It's from the book, probably many of you know, All That We Can Save, and this is edited by Catherine Wilkinson and Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. And this quote is from Kendra Pierre Lewis. Sorry, I didn't put it up. You'll just have to close your eyes and listen. It's very short. What if instead the story we tell about climate change is that it is an opportunity, one for humans to repair our relationship with the earth and re-envision our societies in ways that are not just in keeping with our ecosystems, but also make our lives better. If that doesn't sound possible, ask yourself, why not? I like to keep this in mind as I go about my daily work, and I really appreciate the collaboration platform here. And I look forward to hearing what everybody has to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Really appreciate you joining us today and appreciate everyone at the City of San Luis Obispo for all the wonderful work you have done.